Hi everyone, it's Laura from Sweet Handmade Cookies. Welcome back to the Sweet Handmade Cookies kitchen, where today I'm working on a Monstera leaf bridal shower set. I'm creating 4 batches of dough today, and here are the ingredients I'm going to need for that dough. It includes 4 pounds of butter and 8 eggs, lots of sugar and flour. These are the tools I'm going to need, and then I'm just going to show you how the ingredients deplete. So first batch is now done. I have used up 1 of the pounds of butter and some sugar. I have now finished 2 batches of dough, and now 3 batches of dough. Of course, the dough is behind this scene on the island. I have now finished all 4 batches of dough, and now I'm going to do a cleanup. So dishes into the sink, eggshells and vanilla beans into the composter. I'll take care of those butter wrappers. I'm going to put away my scale, the salt, and the container for the eggs. That'll get recycled. Now I'm going to put away the sugar, and then the flour, and I have portioned the dough into extra large freezer bags, and now I'm going to roll that dough using my dough sheeter. And so this is the Eugene dough sheeter. What I do is I portion out the dough into these extra large freezer bags by weight, and for each double batch of dough that I create, so every 2 batches, I get 5 bags. So today I have 10 bags of dough to roll. It takes just a few minutes with this sheeter. It's very easy on the shoulders. Because I roll in these plastic bags, I don't add flour to my cookie dough, which means I can use up all the scraps. And because the dough is stored in these freezer bags, I can store it in the freezer until I need to use it. So oftentimes, especially on weeks where I have lots of orders or lots of big orders, I will make the dough up ahead early in the week and then store it in the freezer until I'm ready to roll the dough. It takes just a few minutes of defrosting on the counter before I can use it. And so here I go. I have pulled some dough out of the freezer and I'm ready to get started. And so this is a set of 30 cookies. And I am going to start by cutting this first shape. And so you'll see that I'm using my ruler technique. I don't always use it, but it is handy. And I find that when I use the ruler, I can apply more even pressure down onto that cookie cutter and make for a more perfect shape. So I'm going to be making 5 cookies of each shape. For a total of 6 designs in this set. So the client sent me inspiration pictures, and in the inspiration pictures there were these Monstera leaves. I didn't know much about the Monstera deliciosa plant. I looked it up. It's also called the Swiss cheese plant. You probably know it for all the little holes and cuts in the leaves. And it's a tropical plant, and it's a nice addition to a cookie set. And perhaps it was the theme of the bridal shower. That part I don't know. But I liked working with it, and I wanted to really incorporate it well. And so I found some great art to use, and I'll explain that more as I get to it. So moving on to some hexagon designs. And some hearts. And you know I always put the scraps back into the freezer bag so I can re-roll. And then I'm going to be moving on to the actual leaf. And as you can see here, I am just using a piece of paper as to cut out the shape. I actually don't have one of these leaves as a cookie cutter. I have over 1,300, I think about 1,350 cookie cutters. And I'm really at the point now where I don't want to keep buying cookie cutters. If this had been a set of 50 of these leaves, yes, I would have bought the cookie cutter. But to cut out 5, I think it's just as easy. It takes a little bit more time, but it's just as easy to use a paring knife. So I just print out the design onto a piece of paper, cut it out, and then using a paring knife, cut it out of the dough. And it works because my dough is very stiff. If your dough is less stiff, you could always freeze the dough right before trying to do this step. And so I'm going to cut out the rest of the leaves. 1 is now done. I need to cut 4 more. And then after that, I'm going to use that cutout a couple of times. So first of all, I'm going to cut another cookie shape, and I'm going to use both a round cutter and a little bit of this shape because I want to have it look, I kept thinking of like a boutonniere, you know, a flower with some greenery behind it, and I wanted the greenery behind it to be one of these Monstera leaves. And so I'm going to use it for that. But then I'm also going to use this cutout in my projector so that I can get the exact right shape of the leaf onto the cookie when I pipe the green. And you'll see that a little later on. Now, the next step for me is to get some of these cookies onto a cookie sheet because I'm quickly running out of room on this piece of parchment that I'm working on. And so I'm just going to grab that cookie sheet and now load it up with cookies. As you can see, I always bake on parchment. And I have 4 cookie sheets that I bake on. All the other cookie sheets in my kitchen are meant just to work on while decorating. And I just rotate those 4 cookie sheets. It works really well. So now here I'm working on that cookie that I'm sort of calling like a boutonniere cookie. I cut the circle shape, left that circle in the dough, and then cut a little bit of that leaf to be like a boutonniere design. So you can see that there. So the round part will be the flower, and then there'll be some greenery sticking out the top. And so while the cookies are baking and cooling, I get started on the royal icing, and the royal icing ingredients are meringue powder, water, and powdered sugar. And so I have mixed the meringue powder and water. I've mixed it well using the KitchenAid mixer, and then I add the sugar. I have added 1 bag of sugar here. It's a nice soft icing, and now I've added the second bag. This has now created a very stiff icing, which is perfect for all my different designs. And there it is, ready to go. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flood some cookies white. And the way I got that icing ready was I took some of that icing you just saw me make, and I changed the consistency by adding water. I wanted that icing to be thinner so that I could flood the cookie with it and have a nice smooth finish, but I also colored it white. And you might ask yourself, why is she coloring a white icing white? Well, because first of all, adding white food coloring does brighten the white, so it is a more attractive cookie. But also having the food coloring in the icing will help prevent other colors from bleeding into it. That makes for a very unattractive cookie when the colors bleed together, but adding white food coloring to your white icing helps to prevent that. And so as you can see, I outline the cookie. Using that same icing, I fill that cookie in, and then I fill it in roughly, then go and fill in any spots, and then I tap it a little bit, and I'm just reaching for my scribe tool here. Scribe tool has just got a tiny point on the end, and I can pop any bubbles that come up in the icing. I find the bubbles come up a little bit faster when I tap the cookie to the edge of the cookie sheet. That's why I usually do that. And I pop up any bubbles I see and smooth out any imperfections and adjust the icing on the edges if it isn't quite right. And so flooding and adjusting a cookie like this can take up to 1.5 minutes. And so you can see that it's a little bit of a time-consuming process. But I won't make you sit through that. I'm just going to speed it all up for you now, and you can watch me flood one cookie after another. So I stack up my cookies on the cookie sheet. They look nice all spread out, but it's just harder to move them around. And once the icing is on, you don't want to accidentally stick your finger in the icing. And so you want to have room to move the cookies around. One of the things that I find interesting about decorated cookies is that every cookie artist seems to have a unique style to them. I think it's much like handwriting. We all have a slightly different look to our cookies, just like we all have slightly different handwriting. And so I don't think I could describe my style for you very much. What I usually advise my clients to do is to look at pictures of my work on my website so they get an idea of what I'm all about. I know that personally I like to use plaque cookies as opposed to shapes. So I do, if I am going to buy more cookie cutters for my collection, it'll probably be plaques. For example, this cookie is going to be a diamond ring cookie. And yes, I have a cookie cutter shaped like a diamond ring, and sometimes people specifically ask for that. But in this case, I think it's a better look to have this shape with a diamond ring put on top. and I think it turns out really quite lovely. So I think it's very interesting to see the different styles of different artists. And this is one of my newer plaque shapes that I got recently that I really love. So I'm finding an excuse to use it in almost every set I can. And onto the next tray. This tray, I'm only doing the hexagon cookies in white. I'm going to leave the hearts for a little later on. And in the timeline of making these cookies, this is still all the first day. I had the dough ready, obviously, and from before. And then what I did was bake the cookies, cooled the cookies, made the royal icing, and flooded all the cookies. And I've told you guys all this before. I really love the flooding process. It's very zen-like. I flooded a cookie or two in my day, so there's not a lot of stress to it. Once you know the icing consistency is perfect, then it's really not hard to do. I've now moved on to the Monstera leaf cookies and the Monstera leaf boutonniere type cookies, and I'm flooding those in a golden color, and you'll see how gold incorporates into this set at the end. And now the last cookies that I'm flooding today are these little green hearts. And that would be a wrap on day number 1. And so the next thing I'm working on is adding the gold. So I'm using a gold luster dust, a soft, I believe it's called soft gold, and it's from Roxy and Rich. And I'm just going to paint that on. So I know that the leaf is going to go on top of this cookie, and it is going to, you're going to see a little bit of the outside of the cookie underneath the gold leaf. And you're also going to see those spots where there's cutouts and holes in the actual leaf. So I'm adding a little bit of gold. Okay, and now I'm moving on to making the dark green, which is going to be the leaves. I already have the light green that I used for flooding yesterday. And so this is actually going to be the same shade of green, the same food coloring that I'm using. I'm just going to try and intensify the color because I need it to be darker. And so I'm just checking my fingers to see if I got food coloring on them. So I'm going to start just by mixing it up. I'm trying to get a good dark color. And before I start working with adding water and changing the consistency, I just want to see if I'm getting close to the right color. I can tell you I'm not. So I'm going to add some more food coloring, but also water, because I am trying to make the icing thinner. I do want the leaves that I'm going to pipe on these cookies, I want them to be really nice and smooth. And so this process takes a little while. I'm going to speed it up for you because nobody wants to sit through 5 minutes of me trying to get the right color and consistency. But it takes a little while, and it takes a little bit of practice to get it right. And then once it's perfect, then I'm going to put it into a piping bag. I think I make 2 piping bags of this icing. And then I'm going to get started on adding the leaves to the cookies. And as you know, I check the consistency by timing it. Just make sure it's nice and smooth. There. Good color, good consistency. And so I have the 2 colors of green there. And this first cookie, I'm going to do a little pattern of the monstera leaves and other tropical leaves on this cookie. This is... this might surprise you. I bought this on Etsy. Okay, I know that's not going to surprise you. I buy most of my art on Etsy. I'm willing to support other local artists and certainly support people doing something that I'm not good at doing. And so someone has created this beautiful artwork of these leaves, and here they are in a circle pattern. So this is going to be leaves on one half of a golden circle. The golden circle will be like a ring, and these beautiful leaves will enhance that. So I'm using both the light green and the dark green for that. And then I'm going to be doing this process 4 more times for a total of 5 cookies. And now I am adding those golden rings I talked about. And I'm doing that to these round cookies, but then also those plaque cookies that I talked about before being diamond rings. So this cookie is going to be a diamond ring. You can see the clip art there, so you get some idea. And then now here are those little green hearts. And again, I'm adding a Monstera leaf to those green hearts. So the hole I've cut in this piping bag is very small, especially compared to the hole I would cut in a piping bag that I'm flooding a cookie with. And the reason for that is I need just a tiny bit of icing to come out of the icing bag at a time in order to keep this delicate pattern. I don't want the icing to flood so much that it fills in the holes or fills in the edges of the leaves. That immediately would not be the kind of leaf we're looking for. And now, if you can remember, these were the cookies I made gold. And I am coming in using my projector again to project the image of that cookie onto those golden iced cookies. And I'm going in to fill in the green. So I free-handed the gold on the edges of these cookies and where I thought the holes in the cookies would be. And in hindsight, I wish I had used the projector for that because it didn't actually turn out to be in the exact right spot. I don't think in the end it makes a difference. I just noticed it and I wasn't so happy about that. But I do think they turned out really lovely with the gold background. And then I finished these 5 leaves, and then these are these like boutonniere type flowers that I'm making. So you can see I'm just putting a little bit of a edge of that leaf there. There. And now I am working on those diamond rings again, and I'm adding like that green, the green leaves like I did to the just the round ring. So in both the light green and the dark green. Very pretty. And now I'm painting on the gold. So again, same gold that I used before on the Monstera leaf cookies, and I'm adding the gold to the rings. And so it's not just, it takes quite a bit of time in that you want to make sure that not only is the top part of that ring gold, you also want to make sure you get all the little edges. And then here comes this tropical flower on this, what I'm referring to as a boutonniere type cookie. And this is like super stiff icing right out of the mixer. You know, when you say to yourself, why does she always make her icing so stiff? Well, I don't want to have to thicken icing. I'd rather thin icing. So now I have this nice stiff icing that I can use for flowers, or I could use it if I made icing too thin. I could put some stiff icing back in. And then I'm going to add some black dots. This is great because it introduces black into my color scheme. And there will be other elements of black, but I always like there to be a little black in a color scheme. And now the finishing touches for this entire set, which include adding the lines to the diamonds on these diamond ring cookies. I also added a gold splatter to the Monstera leaf cookies. I added a little bit of gold to the greenery on these particular cookies. And then I went in and I added the bride and groom's names, their initials, and the date of their upcoming nuptials. I love how these cookies turned out. I hope Paige and Josh did as well. And I hope they had a wonderful shower. And I hope they are looking forward to their upcoming nuptials. And so it's time to package the cookies. And as you know, I always package my cookies in glassine bags. Glassine is a smooth and glossy paper that is air, water, and grease resistant. It is translucent, so you can see what is inside the package, and I think it looks beautiful and elegant. Thanks for joining me today for the making of this beautiful bridal shower set. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you back again here next week.